We got a couple Canada West alum here, Noah Picton and Addison Richards. Addie sticking with us through hour two. Noah, I think, making your Rod Pedersen Show debut. Am I right?
Debut, first time.
Welcome.
Thank you.
So good to have you here, my friend.
Absolutely, yeah.
How are things in the world of Noah Picton?
They're good.
Good.
Football is taking a back seat, but life is just chugging along, so I had a good summer. Just landed a job, luckily, so it's kind of been a good progression from the game into the real world, I guess. So, yeah, no, it's all good.
Heck Crichton Award winner for the MVP of Canadian University football, all-time leading passer. He's got quite the story. I think everybody watching knows your story, Noah, but it's interesting. You're very quick to say life after football. You've moved on. Was it as easy as you've made it sound?
I wouldn't say it was easy, but when I was cut from Toronto this past training camp, I was content with being done with the game. I took it a lot further than I thought I would. I knew that I had kind of goals after football, what I wanted to do professionally. So, it was difficult for a little bit, but I got over it rather quickly. There wasn't a identity crisis that some people go through or anything like that. So I'm pretty lucky to have transitioned smoothly.
Good to hear. Yeah. Addie, what's your thoughts on Noah as a guy that came through the same program?
I wouldn't expect any less. That's kind of exactly how I would think that you would handle your situation. And I mean, all of us back here were pulling for you and knowing how hard you worked to get that opportunity as a guy that ever since you were playing minor football, you've had your naysayers, which saying you can't do, and you just continue to do. So I'm glad that you're at peace with it. I'm glad that you took it farther than even you thought you could. And just real proud of you, man.
Appreciate it. You got me there. So I think a lot of yards for me. Yeah.
We all are very proud of you. But one of the last things we heard, other than your time with the Argos, was the health issue that you went through. Can you discuss that? What it was, how you got over it? Because you were back on the field with the Argos, which we were all very happy to see.
Yeah, last season was kind of tough with the injury. It was kind of fluke. It was, I'm just trying to think, it was septic arthritis that I developed in my foot. Happened in Winnipeg. So I like people of Winnipeg. It's a good city, but it kind of plays to that reputation that they have. I got a weird illness after playing in Winnipeg, but it was an infection that... Yeah, it's set up.
Len's just said very Winnipegish.
It's set up shop in the joint of my big toe. I was at the doctor. I was treated for a couple of different things, given different medications. Nothing seemed to be working. Progressively got worse. Excruciating pain. I ended up going to the ER, and I said I need something for the pain, and then they ended up drawing fluid from the joint, trying to get an idea what was going on. This would have been probably a week since I was first kind of diagnosed or something was going on, and then they figured it was an infection. I was put on IV antibiotics for about a week. They were hoping that would clear it up. Didn't clear up as they thought. I was given a PICC line, kind of right through my bicep, above my heart, through my chest. Again, was on IV for about a month. So it was just a total freak accident. It was kind of frustrating being in your fifth season. You've never been out due to injury, and then that kind of takes you out in the end of it all. So it was difficult. And then on top of that, being kicked while I was down, we had our season, our win stripped from an error from the administration. That was difficult to handle. So by the end of it, I was, get me the heck out of here.
Yeah.
So no, I was fortunate to fully recover. And then, like you mentioned, I was back on the field with the Argos, so it played out okay.
I was going to say, when you stepped on the field with the Argos, was that a win in itself? Did that come over you when you stepped on the field for the first time?
You're talking the preseason game?
Yeah. Well, whenever, even the first day of camp, and you were in Bradenton too, were you not?
I was.
Yeah.
So I was in Bradenton, and just kind of realizing that I'd get another shot to play football. Try out for the team, and that my last year with the Rams wouldn't be the last experience I had with the game. So it was kind of a blessing in that, you have another opportunity. So I was pretty thankful for that when I got that call in December.
Well, actually, I hope you don't mind. I get all my updates of Noah Picton through your mom and dad, who I see regularly. So They told me that you'd had lunch with John Ryan at that Argos camp in Bradenton. Talk about that visit as much as you can, because John was, of course, trying out for the Argos. He hadn't signed anywhere yet.
Yeah, so definitely. It was the mini camp down in Bradenton. I heard John was going to be at a few of them. I was told he'd be at the camp there, and I was sitting down for lunch, or actually, I think he was sitting down. I went and got my plate, and I was like, hey, I'm going to go sit beside John Ryan. I was a fan of his growing up. I hadn't actually talked to him since probably 2006. I think he spoke at a Rams dinner, and I met him there briefly, but hadn't seen him since then. And it was neat to chat with him a little bit. He was a Regina guy, Sheldon player, so really down to earth, good dude, more or less. It was pretty neat just to kind of eat with him and be at his table. So it was a pretty cool experience. Then after the day on the field, met with him, hung out with him a little bit. So it was a little bit surreal for me, just kind of coming full circle since I was really, really young, watching him even on the Rams. So no, it was a good time.
Yeah, absolutely. So being a Regina kid, it's funny with you and Addie. Obviously, grew up Rider fans, but you had your Bomber stint, you had your Argos stint. So what teams are you guys following now in your post-career? Who are you following the most?
Definitely still a Winnipeg guy. Obviously, it's hard.
Wow.
Being in Regina, not to be bombarded with Rider news all the time. So you kind of, by default, are following the team.
Right. It's brainwashing.
It's brainwashing, yeah, right. So I still follow up with Winnipeg, still try to, hit a guy up here and there, just see how things are going. And I'm converted, I guess you would say.
How about you, Noah?
I would say, I still cheer for the Riders. It's difficult not to. I would say, meeting some of the guys out in Toronto, you wish the best for individual players, but I think if it's a Saskatchewan Toronto Grey Cup, like I'm gonna cheer for Saskatchewan, I think, and it's no ill feelings towards Toronto. I'm very grateful for them giving me the opportunity, but at the end of the day, I'm a Saskatchewan kid, and I think that's gonna stick with me for a while. So I want to see those players do well, coaches do well, but I'm a Rider fan for sure.
By the way, my favorite all-time Rider, Donald Narcisse, is watching from Houston, Texas this morning, and he writes in, guys, Noah went to my Don Narcisse AllStar football camp. So proud of him. You went to him as a participant, or you taught at it? Or
no,
both?
I was a participant for sure.
Wow,
I remember
no way.
that camp.
That's pretty cool.
Henry Burris was the quarterback's coach at the time, and I don't know if it was the first year Don Narcisse ran the camp, but yeah, I was there, and you got a little bit of each position, so you kind of went from station to station. So I don't remember what coach they had. All I remember was Henry Burris was there, and he taught me a couple of things that actually stuck with me. You pick up a little bit from each coach. So, it was a great camp for myself. I definitely remember that one.
And if you know anything about Don Narcisse, he would know the name of every kid that came through his camp. He would remember. That's just the kind of guy that Narco is. And good morning, Narco. We'll see you in December when the show comes down to Houston, by the way. But so you talk about your mentors. You guys are both now mentoring kids at various levels. Like, Addie, you were just at a camp not that long ago. Where were you? Weyburn?
Yeah, it was actually two busy weekends. I was in Weyburn on a Friday night. I was in Estevan a Saturday night, and the following week I was in Swift Current, just through our Selects South Sask Selects program that we have, and offering a free camp for the kids. And football's alive and well in those smaller towns. There's going to be a lot of names coming out of there in the next few years, whether through junior or university ranks. So it's exciting to see that it's across the province.
Yeah, and Noah, you said you're going to be helping out Josh Donnelly at the Rams. Who were, when you guys were young kids, the mentors that you had? Do you remember? Narco obviously being one for you. No, I'm sure there were others. Do you, Addie? Any camps you went to or anybody you remember?
Oddly enough, like when I went to my first Rams camp, it was the first time I put the pads on, it was Rick Seaman. And
Coach Seaman.
It was the bird. And yeah. Oddly enough, going to university many years later, he was still that guy.
Right.
Because he was, he's the immortal Rick Seaman. So yeah, so definitely that guy. And in terms of a player, I guess a little bit through high school would have been Matt Dominguez. I was fortunate enough when I made the RMF Spring League team that he was kind of my head coach, and he was still, doing his thing with the Riders, and he was a pretty big influence. So yeah, probably those two guys growing up would have been for me.
Noah?
In the city, people would know my story. So I guess Dean, everyone knows that Dean was my quarterback's coach.
That's his dad, everybody.
That's my dad.
The Joe
Dean.
Montana of junior football, I like to call him, and I don't think he minds that.
No, but aside from him, I'd say Mark Mueller, player.
Right.
He actually coached me my first year with the Rams. He was the quarterback's coach. A good friend now, someone I keep in touch with.
Recruited you to the Rams.
Yeah, he was recruited.
It was a
tough sell.
I was it was the recruiting story to the Rams is funny in that, I was training with them. I would have been in grade 8, and then through high school I was throwing with them in the mornings, and I wasn't necessarily recruited. They just never told me to go away. They just said, sure, come and play for us. You've been here for 4 years already, you might as well stick around. So but that's that. But yeah, no, Mark was a great mentor for mine, and someone I was able to bounce questions off, even while he was in Calgary, while I was playing for the Rams the last few years. So yeah, I would say he was definitely there since the start.
Yeah. By the way, saw Larry Mueller, Mark's dad, last night at the Keg's 40th anniversary supper, by the way. Thank you, Jordy. It was a great night at the Keg. Now that we got that all sorted out, who we're fans of, Addy, you have not picked a winner yet, I don't think, in the Winnipeg-Saskatchewan game, have you?
Did I not? I called for a split.
Oh, you did. That's right. So why do you think the Riders will win on Sunday?
Hot team that's been a little bit down this week, whether due to injury, suspension, just a lot of things going on outside of the game. And then certainly the quarterback position being an issue going up against a pretty talented defense, a hot defense, coming off a big game against Ottawa. So I'm picking the Riders by about 2 scores, I think.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then go back to Winnipeg and lose.
Go back to Winnipeg, and I think they ride the energy out of that home crowd, that they're going to be crazy. And if Winnipeg's not victorious this week, they're going to be fired up and out for blood and out for revenge. So, yeah, I'm still calling for a split.
Noah, just this Sunday's game, what are your thoughts?
I mean, I think I'm picking the Riders. Obviously, everything that's been going on in Winnipeg, people know about that. And just kind of the way history has been, the Riders generally take that one at home. The crowd, it'll be a sellout, as it always is, and that energy makes a difference. Obviously, the defense is hot. Cody Fajardo's playing well. They're scoring in the red zone type of thing. So I think they'll, like Addison said, I think by 2 scores.
Our producer, Clark, told me that I took the bulk of our commercials in the first hour. Means we can talk a little more in the second, which is great. You, Noah, I believe, are a student of not only the game, but the quarterback position. So what do you like about Cody Fajardo? And what are your thoughts on Chris Streveler? The 2 quarterbacks are going to go head-to-head here on Sunday.
I think Fajardo, I've kind of thought about it before in that you can see the character in his play. There's kind of charisma in the way he plays the game. He's energetic. He's running around. He's making plays outside of the pocket. I think that's important. To as a younger guy with some less experience, kind of carving up a defense from the pocket is difficult to do. You got guys like Bo, Mike Riley when he was in Edmonton, maybe not so much now, but I think the more veteran quarterbacks can do it from the pocket, but a younger guy being able to make plays with his legs, and he's been doing that. So I think that's important. He's kind of playing his game. He's not exactly trying to do more than he has. So I like him. I'm a big fan of his. I like the way he plays the game, the way he approaches the game. In terms of Streveler, you know what? I actually haven't watched him as much. I've heard comparisons to Tebow. I saw his stat line from last week or the week before. They won the game. I forget who they played, but he won with, like 85 yards passing.
96 rushing, I think.
96 rushing. So he found a way to win, but I don't know how sustainable that is in the CFL, right? So I think he's going to have to adapt a little bit and underlap police. I'm sure he will. But, this Sunday, I like Fajardo and the Riders. It's
interesting, by the way, that I was warned by Clark, the producer. He said, Noah's not following the CFL as closely as you'd think. Talk about that if you don't mind. Is this because of your new career that you haven't had the time? Or what's the deal there?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a busy summer looking for jobs, studying. And yeah, I mean, I was cut by Toronto, and getting my head right into the CFL wasn't a huge focus of mine. Just kind of taking a step back, and I haven't been following it as closely as I often do. So when Clark asked if I wanted to come on the show, I said, hey, fair warning, I'm not going to be able to provide much analysis at all. I have a few thoughts here and there about it, but I think give it a year, and then I'll definitely be a CFL junkie again. But this summer was a bit of a step back for me.
No, or a major life change.
Yeah,
however you want to look at it.
Yeah.
But one thing I know you can talk about is your time with Marc Trestman, and I know what he thought of you because Marc's a good friend of mine. Can you talk about maybe what you learned from him? And as a matter of fact, whether you believe it or not, he says he learned a lot of things from you. So what was your relation like with Marc Trestman?
It was just being around him and see how he carries himself, the respect that the players have. It was a totally new experience for me. It was kind of the thing that he said that really stuck with me, in that we had a meeting and he said, I'm not here. This isn't a football season. I'm taking you guys through a 5-month leadership course. And I thought that was pretty neat, is that there was so much more to it than the X's and O's for him. It's about creating character and leaders within the locker room. It was unfortunate how his time ended in Toronto. But it's tough to put into words the type of coach he was and person he was, but you could see that the wheel was always turning in his mind, and it really is a genius that, I took as many notes as I could, and just observed the way he worked, and it was pretty neat to see, and very, very admirable for sure.
Does it surprise you at all that James Wilder Jr. is not playing for the Argos? Because this is what I saw, and I was sitting with a bunch of Argo people at the game in Touchdown Atlantic. But Wilder's there in his shirt and t-shirt and shorts on the sidelines. And I'm looking at it going, he's like the kid that they made go stand in the corner of school. Mm-hmm. It's like, you can play, but you're not going to play. And we're going to make you stand out here and watch all your teammates while they're playing their asses off because you don't want to be out there. And then that was what I read. And then the Argo fans and people were telling me that, well, they gave him a chance to play special teams and he didn't want to do it. Mm-hmm. He felt he was either above it or he just wasn't interested. So it's this. But then after the game, he's out signing autographs. He's greeting the fans. Like, he's a good guy, right?
Great guy.
That is the misconception about James Wilder Jr. But what is his deal? I guess he just wants to play on his terms, maybe not the coach's terms. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I don't know what they're doing in Toronto right now. I haven't kept in touch with many of them at all, but having him on the sidelines seems like a strange thing, the type of player that he is.
It was.
Right? So it's, it's unfortunate, the record that they have, you think you'd want all the assets on the field, getting him some touches and whatnot. So, like you touched on, he's a fantastic dude.
Great guy.
He was a great guy to me,
Yeah.
very kind. The fans love him, and he's not just kind of putting on a show for people outside the locker room. That's who he is, day in, day out in the meeting rooms and everything. He's always got a smile on. So, yeah, it's surprising to me to see that he's not out there.
We're going to take a time out here. We were talking football this morning, Labor Day Classic weekend edition. We'll maybe get around to some NFL and Canada West as well. Why the hell not?
You're watching Rod Pedersen On Demand. For more of The Rod Pedersen Show, visit rodpedersen.com or follow Rod Pedersen on social media.